Now the IEBC is finally fully constituted. The 4 new commissioners were in Mombasa last week for orientation and induction, and they are saying that they're promising a free and fair election. But what is the responsibility of all stakeholders in this? Let's first listen to the commissioners themselves alongside their chairman, Wafula Chebukati.
That as midwives of the election, which is a very important event in this country, we will ensure that both mother and the baby are safe during and after delivery.
We are out as a team and we are going to work together to give this country a free, fair, credible elections.
And we promise to deliver a credible election come next year. And we have no doubt in our mind, we have the will, the passion, and the capacity to do that.
You, the media, you are one of our key stakeholders. And we want to work together on this journey, such that whatever you report should bring this nation together and not break the nation.
The decisions made by the Commission were made according to the law, and I expect that the new commissioners will familiarize themselves with those decisions, and if there is any issue they want to clarify, they are free to bring it up. So it's not another way you are looking at it, that decisions have to be changed, but it's more of looking at what the decisions made in accordance with the law, and then they are free to bring up any decision they feel like they want to review.
All right, the new commissioners, Juliana Cherera, Justus Nyang'aya, Francis Wanderi, Irene Masit, and the chairman there is saying that there are certain decisions they made before they got the full commission. There is potential that people may challenge them based on the judgment of the Court of Appeal that they didn't have quorum to verify signatures. But now IEBC chair is saying that they did whatever they did within the law, and if there is any challenge, then that can be dealt with. Let me begin with you, Speaker Kagusha. When you are to reflect on what has happened to IEBC lately, and how with the coming on board of the 4 commissioners, are we at that time that we can now start saying that we are certain the polls in 2022 will be fair, and what for you must tick for that to be assured?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the commissioners are. I think the commissioners are right.
Go ahead, sorry. Speaker.
I think the commissioners are right, that they have the intentions and they have the will and the passion to make sure that they deliver a credible election. And for that, we don't doubt. We believe them, and we believe that they truly want to do that, and they hope to do that. But unfortunately, as to the issue of capacity, I'm not very sure they have the capacity as they claim that they have the passion, the will, and the capacity to deliver a credible election. I think the issue of capacity is one of the things that really must be put to test here, because you see the time in which these ladies and gentlemen are coming into office when we are properly constituting the commission. It's quite late. It's there are many other logistics that need to be done. Do they have that sufficient time? They need resources to do some of those things that are required to be done. Look at the issue of key staff who are supposed to be running key departments in IEBC. Do they have them? You know, that's a challenge. I know that the commissioners who were there before had already started the process of hiring key staff. Did they finish? Are they going to start the process afresh? And I think those are some of the important questions that need to be asked. As to the issue of procurement of the logistics that are necessary and required for an election, have they procured? How far have they gone with the issue of fixing some of the challenges that we encountered in the last election? You see, those are some of the questions that they also need to answer, and they need to be alive to. So they might have the passion, the intention, the will, but they might also have been set up for failure to the extent that the system is run, or it runs itself in a way that they have no much control over different aspects of the election that we are going to have. Remember, the issue of credibility and the transparency and the integrity of an election is not so much about just about the willingness and the passion and the will and the hope. It's also about how the process is supported, how the logistics are organized around the elections.
Right, Speaker, I hear you. And Advocate Ogolla, because, look, just a few weeks ago, I think it's about 2 weeks, the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board nullified a key tender for election technology on KIMS on the grounds that it did not indicate that 75% of employment must be reserved for Kenyans and that 40% of the content must be local. So it was nullified, and IEBC has 45 days to retender. It has 30 days to come up with a new document. So that means by the end of September. How can IEBC assure Kenyans at a time that already they're facing challenges with their tendering processes? What's going on?
First of all, Sam, allow me to congratulate the 4 new commissioners who have now joined IEBC. They were vetted, they were interviewed, and they are capable, and we wish them well. They should also expect what Kenyans call as trial by ordeal, that your capacity to work will be measured with your capacity to endure pain and ridicule. Because Kenyans support you before you start working. When you start working, they start piling pressure on you, and they start demanding that you resign. So those are things that they should expect, yeah? Insofar as the functional independence and administrative procedures of the Commission are concerned, I don't think there's reason for doubt or for anxiety at all regarding the procurement processes. IEBC's procurement process is regulated by law, as is any constitutional commission or other state agency. In any process, Sam, if somebody is aggrieved, of course that's why we have this review tribunal, and you have the judicial system. You can always take your grievance there. And I don't think the law requires IEBC to act in good faith and to show professionalism and compliance with the law every step of the way. But even if you're doing your best, it does not stop someone from challenging existing processes. So the idea is not to panic. If some of the decisions that IEBC has made relating to procurement are reversed, you look at the timelines are there, they will comply. But remember, the law also permits IEBC to do direct procurement. Direct procurement should be used sparingly, because a critical organ, which is at the center of democracy, such as IEBC, should as much as possible to do competitive bidding of service providers. But I don't think there will be a crisis. The totality is there really will not be any crisis. And I think what the chairman also said is there's also value in it. The decisions made by the Commission, they stand validated unless challenged one by one in a court of law. If somebody wants to audit some of the decisions that have been made by a commission that people consider may not have been quorate at that time, then they are free to do so. IEBC will defend those decisions. The decisions that relate to implementation of the law, those ones will be upheld. Decisions that relate to policy and administrative measures, those ones may have required quorum, and if there was no quorum, there could be a question there whether under the precautionary principle, what ought to have been done should have been done regardless, or what ought to have been done should not have been done without quorum. So I don't think Kenyans should panic at all. Most of the decisions that IEBC has made relate to administration, voter registration. Mass voter registration is now going to be rolled out with the current commission, and so on and so forth.
And I want us to listen to Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. He's been speaking about things that he needs IEBC to clarify. Listen.
IEBC itoe msimamo thabiti, kwa sababu kuna wengine wanasema kwamba kura itapigwa na huduma namba. The truth is, Parliament has not amended the laws for the voting to be through huduma namba. Ni lazima tutumie ile message ya ID, alafu naenda kupiga kura. Kwa hivyo, it is important IEBC jitokeze mapema, ifanye clarification.
And as you reflect on the standing of the IEBC, Herman Manyora, what do you think should be the responsibility of politicians? Because in this country, in the previous elections, politicians have been quite critical of the commission, to the extent some of them tend to spread disinformation or distort facts. What role must political class play in this election if IBC is to succeed?
First of all, let me congratulate the men and women who have been appointed. I don't know any of them personally. But when I look at them, they don't inspire confidence. And the capacity they are talking about is not the capacity Speaker Gashoka is talking about. Speaker John, let's call him John.
Kagusha.
Yeah. These names are difficult. The capacity that an individual ought to have to do a job. When I look at them,
You don't see it?
I don't see it. When I looked at the interviews, and this country has a problem. We must learn that countries that have succeeded have one thing in common. For every job, for every task, the best man or woman. That's the only way you go forward. For everything you have, for every job, the best man or woman. When you look at what's going on in this country, I don't quite see it. Now, to answer your question.
No, just hold on. That's interesting. I mean, why would you doubt
you see, even when they are recruiting...
Is it how they sound or their
when
papers?
When they are recruiting, even the people doing the interviews, the questioning, the answers, the responses, it is... Even when they are doing the judiciary, this guy is an advocate. You don't see the process recruiting a chief justice of a country. You don't see it. I mean, and what has happened in this country is this guy could be qualified for a job, but we have come to believe that jobs have their owners. So when they want chief justice, the best job in the judiciary, in the legal fraternity, with all these professors and lawyers and what, only 13 individuals apply. What does that tell you? That must raise a red flag. There's something wrong somewhere. So I'm saying there are many issues, including people thinking that you can never get a job in this country unless somebody is pushing you. So it keeps people. So the processes, we need to look at these processes so that when you are advertising for a position, really men and women apply. Quite often, many people don't.
There was 660.
I live in this country and I know it. I live in this country and I know it. And even when you look at the last one they did, which brought in Chebukati, a lot of my colleagues at the university applied. Some with sterling experience even in that area. None of them was even shortlisted.
Okay.
So let me answer your question now.
Yes, the question about the role of politicians in ensuring that this succeeds.
When you look at Mudavadi, then you have the answer to your question. This is a major player, but he sounds an outsider. We had a problem in 2013, 2017, 2007, because the major players are never part of the game. If you go to America, for example, two things. First of all, and we must bring that in this country. We must localize campaign management to county level, as it happens in many other places. And number two, the major players must have a stake in the elections. It is inconceivable that somebody like Raila, Mudavadi, Ruto, they don't even know what is going on in IBC, what they are procuring. They are just such a serious outsiders, as you have seen Mudavadi. He's an outsider. I therefore advocate...
How would you want them to be...
I advocate for what we did during 1997 IPPG, that political parties must nominate and appoint commissioners. It is one way of looking for... There are many ways of arriving at a commission.
Haman, allow me to get on this, because I'm just looking at... just hold on, because before you get to Honorable Nyonka, the selection panel had representation from the Public Service Commission. It had representation from faith groups, from LSK.
Yes.
Why would you still propose?
I'm saying
political parties.
I'm saying two things. First
of all, an independent commission.
I am saying two things, not just for this one. I'm saying whenever I look at appointments in this country, some high-profile ones that we watch on TV and so on and so forth, I don't see the seriousness I would expect in appointments of that nature, number one. And number two, I'm saying one way of filling an electoral commission or body is by the players themselves appoint. There's nothing wrong with it. It is used elsewhere in the world. I may not have quick...
But how do they shield themselves from the baggage?
We did it, and I think that's the best we had in this country. Don't even go far.
Okay.
So we need to clarify something.
I wanted to say something, please. Because this is important. You asked me what role politicians should play. So one, in terms of who becomes a commission. It was part of BBI. It was removed at the last moment, if you remember. Let them play a direct role in who becomes a commissioner. Let us stop pretending nobody's neutral. And number two, let political parties and their presidential candidates be only serious people. For example, one of the reasons why we have a lot of complaints, many presidential candidates, even including like Raila in 2013 and do not have agents across the country. So we only want politicians who are serious, political parties that are serious. We tell you we have 40,000 polling stations in the country. You can only be on the ballot if you have 2 agents, at minimum of 2.
Okay.
And pay for them
Haman,
upfront.
I hear you, yet the Constitution says that you shall not discriminate. But Honorable Onyonka, if the election in 2022 is to be free, fair, credible, and people will trust IEBC, politicians, like I told Haman here, are known to distort information. So what is this that yourself and your colleagues must do to ensure that, yes, you demand accountability, but also do your role in creating confidence in the electoral process?
Politicians will never agree that the IEBC is going to be a free and fair outfit that is going to run elections fairly, which are believable. My conviction and belief is that and this is what Haman is saying, the selections were okay. They were done within the law. In fact, most of these people are qualified, the commissioners who have gotten the jobs. But I think what Haman is saying is that these elections for our people who are supposed to manage our institutions, they're usually diluted because of either political interests or because of the normal scheming and planning for the sake of being advantaged at some point on this exercise. To be honest, number one, like Professor has said, IEBC needs to decentralize. The only thing that is supposed to be transmitted to Nairobi is actually data. In other words, the results are coming in, the elections are in Kisii County, there is a hall there where these results are being received, and those received are being flashed out. They are received at the IEBC headquarters, whether it's in Bomas or whatever. There has to be a very clear line, a very clear direction on how that is done. The reason is that the country is big, and these elections are spread out in such a manner that if you are going to make sure that everything actually comes to Bomas of Kenya, at that instant, in other words, in real time, there is a possibility you're going to have a problem with that. Number two, what IEBC is suffering from right now is not about the commissioners. The commissioners have never been a problem per se. It is the executive, the CEO. Who are the people who are going to manage his data? What is happening with the software? What is happening with the hardware? Who are the people who are going to be the ones running these elections? How are they disposed? How are they recruited? What is the criteria that was used? Have we again, like Prof has said, diluted these nominations and selections for the people who are being hired to be IEBC officers at the grassroots level, where the hiring was not professionally done, and therefore the quality of their workmanship and it may not be that good.
Right.
At the grassroots level, coming to elections of MCA, elections of MP, elections of governor has really never been that contentious. Of course, there were many issues about the corruption which was there and the results. That's why you had many of them being taken to court. But in reality, if the CEO is not able to manage IEBC, to make sure that the procurement is done, to make sure that the management of this institution is done in a transparent, accountable manner within the law.
Right.
Like everybody has mentioned, if you keep me away from the information which is supposed to give me the accessibility and the information about how the IEBC is constituted, how the policies are running, how the management is going, what the procurement is being done, obviously I'll start saying you are doing it because you want to rig the elections. And these are, for me now, the challenges that the new commissioners have.
Okay.
They must come up with an openness. They must allow the Kenyan public to know what they are doing on a constant basis. Politicians, you can ignore us, yes, but also let the political parties and the stakeholders participate in knowing what you are doing.
Okay.
Let us have timelines, and I saw Chebukati had done that, of what he's going to do. I mean, look at where we are right now, the mass registration. God forbid, we hope that it's going to come soon. Because some people...
They say it's in October.
Yeah, we hope it will start in October. All right? The Kim's kids, you are going to find, they're not ready. So unless IEBC comes out and starts telling us, these are the challenges we are facing, we are ready with our kits. Let us have the voter registration confirmed in advance. Let people be able, let us be able to have our voters verify whether they're in the registers, so that you don't have, when the elections come, people start saying that my name doesn't exist in certain areas. That all that stuff has to be done. And we should never forget, there were recommendations which were made by the Kriegler report. They were very clear and they were very succinct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I want us to exit from this conversation, but Advocate Ogolla, you are itching to respond, and as you do so, IEBC has no substantive chief executive officer, and several senior directors and managers are not yet appointed. So, if they are to pick those officials, and specifically the CEO, does it affect the credibility of a process for if that CEO is to come from outside so late in the day to manage an election?
The short answer is no, because this is an institution that succeeds itself. It does actually succeed itself in the sense that IEBC has been managing election. This IEBC, as we know it, managed the 2013 election. It did manage 2017 election, the fresh election, and a lot of by-elections in between. So I don't understand this panic that we have when we replace commissioners. The law itself anticipates replacement of commissioners every time they resign, except during the course of an election, during the pendency of an election. Article 134. What does it say? You cannot replace a commissioner in the middle of an election process. Remember when Commissioner Kombe resigned, we could not replace her, because otherwise, even these commissioners, if somebody wants to resign or is unable to perform their functions, they will be replaced, and there will be no need for panic because the infrastructure exists. The personnel, when recruited, they go and have to familiarize with themselves with the process and procedures and the information that already exists. I think it's not true that when you hire new commissioners, they build from scratch. They would be building from scratch. But I think, let me respond to something that Professor Munyara said. He's a public intellectual and an opinion shaper. And we rely on him and our leaders, like Honorable Nyonka here, to shape the public confidence, to win that public confidence for IEBC. It's a bit unfair to doubt the competency and the capability of 4 new commissioners who are yet to even settle. Some, they have not settled. They haven't settled. But you're already casting aspersion. You know, when you do that, Mama Mboga can do that, and it's an opinion. Professor's opinion must be taken seriously because it takes a lot of time and commits his mind to these things, and we must rely on his opinion. So I plead with him not to withdraw support for the commissioners and to lend that support. But there's something he raised which needs to be clarified. IEBC is not responsible for reform conversations. Reform is the function of Parliament. Professor, talking about composition of IEBC, there are 2 problems with that. The Constitution itself has ordained what you may consider as a neutral expert approach. That the commission shall be insulated from partisan politics. Is there in the law? Independent, electoral, and boundaries commission. If you want to change that, where the commission is insulated from politics and you want to inoculate it with politics, you want to vaccinate it, so that with a bit of that politics, then you have to start by auditing the provisions of the Constitution that assure IEBC of its independence, amend them, remove them, then you can go the IPPG format. But I think as it is, this model, we have worked over 20 years trying to reform IEBC, and Kenyans said, An independent, robust, and functional IBC is what we need, as opposed to the IPPG format. Let us support them, let us wish them well, and Prof, continue extending that support.
Allow me to say that I support them, as indeed all of us must.
All right.
But as a Kenyan, I have I have to say things the way I see them.
All right.
And I must also inform the advocate here, this counsel here, that you see, independence has little to do with selection. That once they are selected, then they assume their role and they become independent.
But you're in Kenya.
And more importantly, we are not bound by any provision. We can change any law. Okay. Come up with what we want.
Okay, all right.
We belong to the High Court and Court of Appeal.
I hear you. Speaker Kagusha, allow me not to give you an opportunity because we need to take a short break. Yeah. When we come back, we'll be talking about, Speaker, we'll be talking about the theater of politics on what we've been seeing on the political play field of what different leaders are doing and driving towards 2022. We'll also be looking at the responsibility of the citizen in sifting through all this. Is it rhetoric or what is it? After the break, stay tuned.